So what I wanted to kind of go over here was the ABPA's mission. And this, I think, has been evolving here over the last little bit. And we spent some time at an offsite before COVID happened. We spent some time at an offsite during COVID, and really just kind of consistently thinking about, well, what is it that we're trying to do to add value to the community? What we come back with as far as the mission is to strengthen the relationships among Black Princeton alumni and the broader Princeton University community by providing opportunities that allow for deep connection and engagement to support our collective impact on Princeton University and the world. When I think about the mission of ABPA, I think about a couple of keywords here about relationships, centered on Black alums, deep connections, support, thinking about our collective impact, and frankly, our reach being both within the campus, within the university, but also broader than that as well. So it gets me really excited, and I think for me as a son of an alum and as just somebody who's been around the university for years as a child and growing up, it gives me great pleasure to really help to continue the legacy that's been going on here. So we can go to the next slide quick, Janae. So to give you guys just another sense, on top of the mission, we also have vision and guiding principles. And really the difference here is when you think about the mission, when you think about the vision here, this is really the long-term aspiration, right? Like what we strive to do that is bigger than just temporal, but really thinking about the long-term. And it's really about our vision is that Black alumni thrive as valued participants in the alumni experience, and connect with each other in the university in their own unique ways that honor our contributions to the broader university community. And I think when you think about university, that is both thinking about the university itself as a nonprofit, that's thinking about the university itself as the students, that's thinking about just all the ways that we connect in a thoughtful way. And I think it's really about how do we deepen that connection and authentically and do it in a way that is authentic to our experiences in a meaningful way. And that word authentic, we intentionally took it out of this, but I think it's really important. We took it out because, yet again, what's authentic to each and every individual person is different, right? So to say what is and what isn't authentic is hard, but to be able to kind of show up in the university in a way that feels like it's home to you, as it should be. And our guiding principles here, so really what the board is striving to commit to the membership is around leadership, service, facilitation, inclusion, and stewardship. And we'll share this file after the meeting, call it middle of next week. But really want to be able to just show more detail on kind of how we're thinking about this, but it's about being able to be thoughtful leaders in the community and broader. For the board, it's about service, right? Like nobody gets paid to be on the ABPA board, but it's really all about how do you really give back in a way and really create opportunities for us to really be meaningful pieces of the alumni experience. Thinking about facilitating, right? So being able to listen, have conversations. And when you think about the listening sessions that were done over the last couple months, like the idea is like being able to hear, listen, and facilitate in a thoughtful way. Similarly, inclusion, right? Making sure that all voices are heard and that everybody really has a chance to be represented at the table. We're not a monolith by any means. So that idea of inclusion is really, really important when we think about how to make this work in the long run. And then stewardship, right? Like being faithful stewards of frankly, the opportunity that we have to serve, but also thinking about how do we kind of make sure that this lives on longer than even the 50 years that it's lived so far. How do we get to 100, 150 years, right? How do we continue to set up a situation in which our alumni community continues to thrive and continues to frankly be a leader within the university on how to engage our population. So we can go to the next slide here today. And then kind of doing all of this great work, it's really spearheaded by our board of directors. I could go through and kind of name everybody, but VP is Trinae. So I'm Eric Plummer, president, class 2010. Trinae Hawkins, 06, is vice president. Cecily King Plummer, 10, is treasurer, and my lovely wife as well. Rakia Ross is 14 and our secretary. And then below are board members who really help bring all this to life. You have Stephen Elmore, 12, Charles Davis, 76, Tessa Kanene. 07, you have Doris Ofori. 17, you have Joe Robinson. 04, you have Erica McGibbon. 07, you have Adetola Olatunji. 11, you have Michael Gunter. 14, Alex Baptiste. 13, Bridget White. 2000, Michael Fletcher. 03, Marilyn Narr. 06, Karen Ali. 78, Danica. 11, Camille Gray. 05, and then we're missing one, which is Solomon Abiola. 13, who is also a board member, but I accidentally did not have a picture, so didn't put him on the slide. I apologize about that, Solomon. And I think as the board goes on, part of what we're looking to do is continue to increase the diversity and increase the conversation that we're having on the board. So as we kind of share more about this, if you're interested or you know anybody that might be interested in joining the board and becoming really a part of the team that's really thinking about just what do we do on a day-to-day basis, like, would love to have that conversation as well. But right now, the board size is about 21 active members. It hovers between about 16 and 28, depending on kind of where the board is. We're set up into 6 committees. So we have the executive committee, community engagement, programming, communications, governance, and fundraising. I won't share a ton of detail here. There are links in the description, but as the groups come up and share about what they've been up to, they'll kind of give a little update on who they are and what they're doing. The board has about a term of service of 3 years for the general board, and then officers do a 2-year term kind of within that. And then when we think about kind of contributing to the board's core operations, each board member is responsible to join 6 board meetings a year. So we do them bi-monthly, and then actively participate or lead on a committee, which includes 3 to 6 meetings throughout the year. So a lot of like dedication and commitment, and really just thank them for helping to bring this all together. So with that, I believe the next slide jumps into committee updates and introductions. So I will go ahead and kind of keep the mic for a moment and just share a bit about the executive committee, which is really all about overseeing that the board activities, the mission, and making sure that the priorities are really being met by what we said we're going to do, overseeing finances and budget, thinking about prioritization of like agenda for board meetings, dealing with like legal and fiduciary responsibilities, handling any urgent day-to-day responsibilities, being like really liaisoning between the university, and then spearheading collaboration with students, university, and alumni special interest groups. And this year will be a bit of a transition. So right now, Trinae, Cecily, and Rakia will be rolling off the executive committee. And Danica Aban, class of 11, and Michael Gunter, class of 14, will be rolling on as vice president and secretary respectively. We're in the process of figuring out the right treasurer going into 2022 as well. So like really excited about the transition of the board here. And just want to thank Trinae, Cecily, and Rakia for all that they've done, and really excited to work with Danica and Michael more to really help continue to drive this forward. So with that, I will pass it to the next group, and we'll kind of continue to go from there. So yeah, let's go to community engagement, which will be Tessa and Michael.
Tessa and Michael, if you give me just one second, I'm going to spotlight you so that folks can see you speaking.
Okay. All righty. So good afternoon. I'm Michael Gunter, class of 2014, and along with Tessa, class of 2007, we are the co-chairs of the Community Engagement Committee. So our main initiative this year was to host a listening tour and to discover what community engagement has looked like for ABPA in the past, what it should look like in the years to come, and what it means for ABPA to be a site of community. To that end, the committee held 5 listening sessions on February 16th, February 23rd, April 5th, April 4th, April 5th, and April 9th in order to receive feedback from a wide swath of alumni. I hope many of you were able to attend a listening session, but for those unable to attend this go around, briefly, the listening tour was designed as 60 to 90-minute sessions to articulate any concerns or observations about the ABPA and how it interacts with alumni and the university. All sessions were held on Zoom, and each session was broken into smaller breakout rooms. So the conversation could be intimate and rapport could be built between participants. We asked a few key questions, including but not limited to, how do we engage and empower the ABPA community? How should ABPA engage with Princeton University? And how do you believe ABPA may serve as a better resource for connecting alumni to other alumni, connecting alumni to students, or connecting alumni to Princeton? Themes we heard were the following, and you can see it on your screens. Transparency, the request for more understanding of the board's governance, operations, and actions. Engagement, requests for regular participatory and intimate opportunities to be meaningful contributors and thought leaders. Collaboration, which were requests for more impactful collaborations with the university and other affinity groups and students. Recognition, which were requests for highlighting unsung heroes over the typical alumni who have acquired fame. History, requests for honoring, including, communicating with, and celebrating the founding members to carry, capture, and iterate upon legacy. Programming, requests for both small and large events to come together like Thrive, was highlighted as life-changing, career-changing. Just requests for more of those events to happily connect, as well as local and virtual opportunities. And lastly, activism. There are requests for ABPA to take meaningful stands on improving the world for the Black community on campus and globally. So in the coming year, the committee would like to launch the survey that it has begun drafting in order to continue to collect feedback from an even wider swath of alumni. Additionally, it would like to use the survey to begin to engage on the feedback we already received from the listening sessions and begin to discover what issues the ABPA believes it is most important to engage with the university and with one another about. And this committee is proud of the work it has conducted this cycle and is passionate about putting feedback into action and engaging the ABPA community. And that's all.
Thanks, Michael. I'd also like to note community engagement really came out of a set of insights that we heard from alumni in the first 2 years that we were fully virtual and remote because of COVID. So hearing from you all when we put surveys out and what we tagged as our year of kind of thriving together, in addition to a lot of energy and just input from new board members, really helped us reposition our community engagement committee so that it really was oriented in a way that was in conversation with and responsive to what membership was saying they wanted to see from ABPA. So really proud of how far that's come. And also just wanted to shout out Jenny Korn, 96, amazing alumni who's on the community engagement committee, who is also running Princeton diversity discussions, series of events that's also, I guess, co-supported by ALPA, A4P, and NAP, our Latinx, Asian American, and Native alumni counterparts. So thanks for all the work on this front. Next, we're going to go to programming. I am going to unspotlight you, Michael, and I'm going to spotlight Danica, Camille, and Karen. Just give me 1 second to get to everyone.
Great, I can give the update. Hello, nice to see you all. I'm Camille, class of 05 from Princeton, joined by my co-chairs, Danica and Karen. So we focus on programming, and our roles are thinking about how we can create engaging content and programming that supports our community. We've had a really solid year so far, and looking forward to the reunions event. So I'll do a quick plug for that. Hopefully you'll be on campus on Saturday. We'll be doing a continental breakfast in the morning, which is new. So we're piloting that, as well as the usual post-P-Rate barbecue at 4 o'clock. So hoping to see many of you there. over the course of the, I'd say, academic year since last September, when this team came on board, we've done a number of virtual events, including one on health equity in the age of COVID-19, one about accelerating your career, vocational velocity. We did a conversation with Laura Coates, celebrating her book release. And we also did a panel on learning more about how to become an alumni leader volunteer. We'll be continuing to look for more events to plan and to hold. And certainly, as you know, I think things are so up and down with COVID, but hoping to do more in-person events in the future. And I think that we've all learned that these virtual events are a great way to connect with people all across the world, and to make, ensure that an ABPA remains inclusive of people in different geographies. So with that, the team is always interested and open to new ideas about events, ideas for speakers, ideas for formats, and we are all, I think, really proud of the work that we've done over the past year. I'll turn to Karen or Danica if you want to add anything.
No. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's been exciting working on the programming committee. So, and it's been exciting working with you ladies. So that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, none of us knew each other, I think, before this.
Yeah.
And it's been a great way. We've worked really hard. We've spoken to each other and been in contact, I think, weekly, multiple times a week, multiple times a day. So this is my first year serving on the board, and I've appreciated getting to know people from that I didn't know before this experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to
Back to
unspotlight
Shanae.
you three. And I think Eric is going to do our communication committee update.
Yep, it'll be me and Corinne, because she decided to wake up from her nap. So
Hey, Corey.
she's gonna hang out with us. But yeah, the communications committee is really responsible for the design, curation, and distribution of our monthly newsletter, our social media, our podcast, really thinking about our database, and really kind of being the front end to ABPA. When we think about where you can find us or where to kind of access, we're constantly putting out updates via email, putting out updates via Facebook, working with putting out posts in LinkedIn and Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, which we'll send out the link to, that has all of the events we've done throughout COVID, and what we'll be doing going forward, just to make sure that we can keep track of all of that and really share more broadly. And we also have an email inbox at princetonabpa@gmail.com, where if you have any updates or things to share, if you want to learn more about the board, if you want to get involved and make things happen, that's where you can find us and really have a conversation there. So that's what the communication committee's been up to. And as you see, there's a vacant lead. So if you or anybody you know is interested in communications, email, social media, would love to have a conversation and figure out if there's an opportunity there.
Awesome. I am next up on governance. So I'm going to spotlight myself and just plug that I dropped the princetonabpa@gmail.com email address in the chat if anyone doesn't have that at the ready. Hi, everyone. I'm Trinae Hawkins, 06. So I'm VP of ABPA, which also makes me head of our governance committee. Governance is maybe the most boring committee. It's all the behind the scenes stuff, but incredibly important for the operations of ABPA, and just a function that's really supported by having an active board of folks who are willing to just come all hands on deck to help keep things running. So as head of governance, what governance mainly does is oversee board member recruitment, onboarding, and then really helps to establish mutual accountability with board members so that all board members are carrying out their duties as outlined in ABPA kind of formative documents, and so that yeah, we establish mutual understanding of how folks who are raising their hand to join the board will contribute to the organization and be in service to our Black alumni community. Governance also oversees annual elections and manages other governance and kind of operational issues. And really the updates here are, as Eric mentioned at the top of this meeting, we welcomed cohorts over the last 2 years of a ton of new Princeton alumni onto the ABPA board, which has really enabled us to adapt to these really interesting times where ABPA had really been, you do reunions, you do a tailgate. Recently, we have been doing alumni weekend. We have been doing a brunch with students, and that was kind of our year-round programming. And so governance is really proud that in the last 2 years, we've been able to bring on a lot of new board members to just help fuel the programming and the additional activities that we thought we needed to do as an organization. And we heard from membership we needed to do in order to keep folks connected, especially during a time where everyone was remote and couldn't be in person. And as Camille mentioned, this has really enabled us to kind of pivot to a point where now we have some of the know-how and some of the infrastructure to both be an in-person type of organization, but also an organization that's really serving the needs of folks across all time zones, across geographies, and really holding true to our mission to be in service to all of Princeton's Black alumni. A couple of things we have coming up on governance. You may have seen if you get the ABPA newsletter that we're actively recruiting for new board members. So again, as Eric mentioned, if you are interested in serving on the board or you know an alumni that you think would be great for the ABPA board, please self-nominate or nominate someone by emailing princetonabpa@gmail.com. We're also working on connecting to past leadership of ABPA in order to really stand up an advisory body. So much of what has made for the success of ABPA is leaning on that institutional wisdom of folks who have been in service to the organization and to our broader alumni community over the years, and helping us remember what things have worked, what things have not worked, when are the times that the organization has thrived. And so we'll be working with past leadership of the organization to stand up that advisory body over the next year or so. And I think that's it for governance updates. I'm going to hand it back to Eric for fundraising. Just give me a second to spotlight. And spotlight.
All good? Yeah. I will. Awesome. Thank you, Chennai. So for fundraising, I think this was a newer committee. And this was actually created during the transition as we started to look at what were some of the blockers to engagement with ABPA. One of the things that we highlighted, and this was probably 2-3 years ago, was actually dues, right? So traditionally at our reunions event, we would basically gate access to the event to only members, people who had paid dues. And through a lot of conversation, it frankly just felt wrong that there wasn't a almost like birthright of Black alumni into the Black Alumni Association. And in order to do away with that, we really had to think about what is the right structure to fund the organization going forward. We don't have infinite coffers, and frankly, the dues were really, really helpful in helping to make sure that we had a steady income of cash to be able to put on events and to be able to do the things that we do throughout the year. But what we decided to move towards was a fundraising strategy. And through the help of a lot of folks, Anima was really pretty critical in helping to think through this. We pivoted towards a fundraising strategy and actually launched the Adam C. Henry Fund. For the last year or so, we had to put the fund itself on pause, as we originally thought that the university would be able to hold the funds in their endowment. And it turned out that actually that was not possible because they don't house money in the endowment for alumni use. They only house it in the endowment for student or faculty use. So we had to find another outside partner, just secured one. The name of the group is the Princeton Area Community Foundation. And the chair of their board is actually the head of Princo, Andy Golden, who is basically managing the money in a similar fashion to the endowment. So it gets really good returns with a lot less headache than like working through and around the university. So really excited about that. And we'll be in the process here over the next couple of weeks of relaunching this more broadly. But really this committee is really thinking about how do we fund this thing and make it sustainable. so that the last 50 years of ABPA, which this is the 50th anniversary, are great, but how can we make this sustainable for the next 150, 200 years, way past where we are? And also somehow in our board members, I forgot to mention that Anima Adejabong is one of our board members. So I apologize about that, Anima. That was not a conscious oversight. That was accidental because you're obviously here on this slide. So really appreciate all that you do for the board. So yeah, so with that, we can go on to some upcoming events. And I think highlighting these upcoming events, this is a pretty interesting time period. So fall of 2021 was the 50th anniversary for the Carl Field Center. And spring of 2022 is the 50th anniversary for the Association of Black Princeton Alumni. So really exciting time to think about history and legacy. No other affinity groups, no other alumni association group besides Alumni Association itself, affinity group, has even anywhere near 50 years of history. So it's a really unique time to think about and reflect and tell our story. So this year, we're thinking about a bunch of different events throughout the year. One thing which you might have already seen that's launched is our, it's called Bright Crowd. It's our Facebook yearbook. We're really trying to collect digitally as many photos and stories of Black Princeton life as we possibly can. If you haven't seen that link, let us know. It's actually connected in this PowerPoint, but I'll personally send it to you as well. You'll have to sign up, but all the alums have been loaded in and would love to have you kind of create your page and kind of tell a bit about your story and this history book. Outside of that, we'll be doing kind of a series of events at reunions. So really thinking about a event, so like a dance party in the tents on Friday night. We are doing a pre-reunions breakfast. We're doing a post-reunions barbecue. We're going to have our award ceremony virtually again this year. So it'll be June 18th at 1 p.m. And the idea there is that we really saw great engagement and wanted to be able to actually capture these moments more thoughtfully and don't really have a camera crew to do it on site. So Zoom makes it really easy to capture these moments and save them for the long term. But as we kind of go throughout the rest of the year, we're thinking about a bunch of different potential events, mostly going to be virtual. I think yet again, I think the one thing that's different about us from a lot of the other alumni groups is that we are very dispersed in where everybody's located. So I think it's really important that we create moments that are inclusive, where we get 200, maybe 250 people at a reunions event. We have 5,100 living Black alumni. So there's a really interesting amount of people that don't get connected to. And I think what we've heard over the course of the last 2 years is that people have come to events who otherwise wouldn't have. So we want to really create these inclusive, thoughtful spaces. So there'll be a ton of really thoughtful digital programming going on. The Field Center is actually going to do a 50th anniversary in person in the fall. There are not great details yet, but I know that this was originally slated for February 2022 with a pretty cool agenda. But Alumni Day got shifted to a minimal in-person event given Omicron. So they ended up, rather than doing a small celebration, they wanted to do it right, pushed it till later this year. So it'll technically be the 51st year, but it'll be the 50th celebration. I think they're really excited. And if you want to get connected to what's going on or you want to learn more, please email the princetonabpa@gmail.com. And I will personally make sure that you get connected with Tennille at the university who's spearheading the event. And she would love to have more alumni connection and input there. So that's kind of the list of events. We're really excited about reunions and the possibilities there. Ways to stay connected. So really, one, if you don't get the ABPA newsletter or you know somebody who doesn't, yet again, send us the email address. There are 5,100 living Black alums. We have about 3,800 emails in our inbox and in our list. So I know there's about 1,300 people that we believe are Black alums who do not get these emails or we don't have their email addresses. So would love to be able to get that kind of shored up. So any insights, anybody that you know that's not getting them, let us know. Would love to have them added. Two, follow us on any of the social media. So the links are in the communications channel. we would love to have you also just get involved with ABPA and the board, right? Whether that's a volunteer, whether that's leading an event, whether that's giving your time to do tech for one of the events, whether that's helping to fundraise. There's lots of, I think, opportunities. There's also a historian project that we're planning to kick off. We have a really cool board member coming on board, hopefully in the summer, who's actually a professor at Dartmouth, who's super excited about actually telling. He's an English professor of like African American literature, but really excited about telling the story of Black Princeton in a thoughtful way. And I figure who better than somebody with a PhD who loves to do research and loves to nerd out. I'm not that person. I'm an ops person, so I will figure out how to get people in the right places and let them do all the cool stuff they want to do. But I know he would take all hands on deck to help. And I think we have great research from the university there as well. So lots of opportunities to get involved and to lean in. Thinking about connecting with your fellow alumni, connect via Facebook, right? If you don't want to do it in person, super easy. Connect to Facebook. There's a lot of good conversation and chat going on there. Like we talked about before, completing your 50th anniversary like digital book profile would be awesome. I think our goal is to try to get to about 20% of the Black alumni population, so about 1,000 people in the book, which I think would be a really, really like good memento. I'd love to get 5,100, but I don't have unlimited time and unlimited money to go chase everybody down, but I would love to get as much engagement as possible. So please flag that. Please attend the Princeton diversity discussions, right? I think Trinae mentioned earlier, Jenny does an awesome job with that. They're listed on the Facebook group. If you don't know Jenny, you should know Jenny. I can't seem to avoid her, and I don't want to avoid her. I think she's awesome. So get connected, please lean in there. And there's a ton of other ways, right? I think Michael had kind of listed out some other ideas, but there are also broader access to the community, right? You can get involved with alumni interviews. You can get involved with Princeton Prize of Racial Relations. You can get involved with the Alumni Council. You can get involved with so many other things. And if you go back to our YouTube channel, one of our events was around getting involved with the university. And there's a really good just kind of like list of things to get involved in and perspectives from fellow alumni on like what it means to do that involvement. I've done a lot of random things over the years, and I feel like a lot of the board members have as well. I feel like a lot of you all have. So if there's anything that you want to learn more about, like we would love to figure out how to get you more information there. Cool, we can go to the next slide, Shai. And if I'm missing anything, any of the board members can like chime in. This is not the Eric Plummer show. Like Corey's finally back asleep, so I can like talk again. But like let me know if there's anything else we should chat through. And then really think about the university, right? I think there's a ton of ways to get involved with the university. And this is just a small microcosm of the ones that we can pull up here quickly. But African American Studies Department, the Princeton Entrepreneurship Council, the Princeton University like public lectures, thinking about the Princeton Institute for International and Regional Studies. And there's a ton more, right? Like there are hundreds of ways, and frankly, would love to learn from you all over time. Like I actually, Princeton in Africa is another big one that keeps coming up, and would love to learn from you all other things and other ways that you get involved, right? I think this is part of the conversation. Is these are the things that pop to the top of our mind, but like what else is out there and like how else do you involve? And then thinking about students, right? I think there's a couple of opportunities here, and while they're not just focused on Black students, quite a few of these, the way that they're designed, Princeton like picks, so the Princeton internship is really about, frankly, underserved populations and like helping them to get mentorship and really like civic service type of opportunities. And then the Princeton University Mentor Program was actually started as, I believe it was called LAMP originally. And it was started by Black students because they wanted a mentorship program that frankly helped to connect students with older students in a constructive way. And I think now they started taking it towards the alumni to connecting with students. And I've had probably 3 or 4 students as mentors over the years, and I think it's an awesome opportunity. They do a really good job actually connecting students and alumni on whatever dimension you think is most important, right? So if it's race for you, they'll figure that out. If it's athletics for you, they'll figure that out. So really thinking about like what your experience means to you and what connection point you want to have. But it's awesome. They do the applications usually middle of August, they're usually due. So keep an eye out for that. It's run through the Carl Field Center, and I think they do a really good job. And shout out to Dominique Reese 06 for starting that. I didn't even realize that, Shanae. It was just there when I got to school. So I was like, it's been like years and decades. It had been 1 year, literally 1 year before I showed up. It was started. That's cool. But cool. So now really wanted to kind of turn this into much more of a discussion. We wanted to really kind of think a little more about a couple of areas that we want to ask questions about, but frankly want to hear from you and hear questions from you as well. So really the first thing that I want to think about, actually, Linda, you have your hand up. I will let you start if you have a thought right away.
Am I on, Linda Johnson?
I do, yes.
Okay. Well, I have something about the Entrepreneurial Center. I didn't know that you had something that you wanted to discuss, but I wanted, I went on this Zoom call because, and I was on the We Hear You Zoom call with Michael, I think, and Jenny. But I just want the Princeton Black alumni to get more involved with the Entrepreneurial Center, because a lot of the Black alumni, and I'm sorry to say, but probably we're the last ones hired and the first ones fired. And sometimes we have to go into an entrepreneurial path for our lives in order to support our families and things like that, and even to support ourselves. And so what I saw with the Black alumni, the Black students, they weren't really thinking about how to, like, they had something around the corner, not worldwide, so that they could sell worldwide. And then also, can you buy it again? And that's, when I consult to people, I always, can you buy it again? Can you do it worldwide? And unfortunately, and I don't want Jenny to feel that I'm against Asians, but there's a lot of Asian students in the Princeton Entrepreneurial Council, and there's not a lot of Black students in there, and we need Black students to be in the Entrepreneurial Center, and then the alumni to come out and go on the Zoom calls and everything else, and to support the Black students and any students that they want to. But don't just be with your friends, be with the students also. I'm 50 years when I came into the university, so, and I always try to come back and come to when I come to the conference, go and see the students right there, not just my friends from 1976, but for the students that are there, and come to the Entrepreneurial Center and get with the Black students and all the students in the Entrepreneurial Center, because like I said, they're the last ones hired and the first ones fired, even in 2022. So that's what I wanted to say. Just be with the Entrepreneurial Center more.
Yep. No, I think it's a great shot. And I think one of the things I personally want to do more of is actually create more programming, right? I think part of it is like, if you don't see yourself in spaces don't look inviting.
Yes.
So like how do you actually, we have a ton of Black entrepreneurs, right? Like there's a ton of them in the network. How do you begin to like highlight some of them in their stories to really make that connection more poignant? So I hear you, and as a failed entrepreneur and an aspiring entrepreneur again in the future, it's like a personal passion of mine. So thank you, Linda.
I just wanted to also quickly note ABPA, and in collaboration with ALPA and other groups, and sometimes just ABPA directly with Princeton Entrepreneurship Council and some of the other groups, have co-sponsored events. We had the Underrepresented Minority Founders Startup Showcase a bit back. So we're definitely forging those connections. And the thing that has been really great is we have a lot of really involved alumni who, whether they formally serve on the ABPA board or not, have really reached out to us when those opportunities come through to make sure that we make those opportunities available to alumni, so that alumni who may not like get the email list from Princeton Entrepreneurship Council or other things like that, but they may get the ABPA newsletter, know, hey, they're looking for speakers, they're looking for folks to feature. So really appreciate you highlighting that. We definitely see a valuable opportunity for alumni to contribute there.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you, Linda. And then Adrian, you had a question. I think you put it in the chat. If you have another question, would love to.
Yeah, I put a question in the chat. I wanted to bring everybody's attention, and I hope someone on this Zoom can answer. What is the relationship of ABPA to the group, the Concerned Black Alumni of Princeton, that started after the George Floyd incidents and has been pushing the university to try to get a center for race? A lot of it came from my generation. And Eric, I think you were at one of the meetings, but I haven't followed up. And so is there any connection whatsoever, between ABPA and that effort? And if not, should there be? And from what I understand, well, I know as a 35-year professor, many prestigious universities have had centers on race for many decades, and Princeton, of course, obviously should have one, but they were having a lot of pushback or not getting support that they would need from, you need faculty at Princeton who want to do it. And that wasn't showing up from what I understood, but I'm out of the loop. So
nope, I will answer from the beginning of your question all the way to the end, because I have like enough insight to be able to like go all the way through. So I think when you start thinking about ABPA and Concerned Black Alumni of Princeton, I think the biggest way to think about it is the overlap is that they're both groups of Black alumni, right? Like ABPA is, in theory, right, 5,100 Black alumni, and we're there to kind of like represent, advocate, support that entire group. And I think Concerned Black Alumni really had the acute focus of building this center for race relations and for, I think it was technically like anti-racism, based on kind of what happened. Based on just basically not based on, like the impetus or the reminder was what happened with George Floyd. But frankly, for a lot of them, it was the experience that they had on campus that kind of this re-triggered a lot of moments and experiences and thoughts that are immensely valid, and nobody should ever take that away from them. That I think they wanted to figure out. I think what has happened since then, they've had a lot of really good traction with the university, like talked with people kind of all the way up and down. I think you actually captured it just about right. It's the university basically needs two things to do an academic center. They need faculty and they need money, right? Like those are literally the two things that they need done. So like, for example, I'm going to butcher the name now, the Native Alumni of Princeton, just recently, they raised $5 million for a couple of endowed chair positions for professors. And in part, the fundraising of the money, the bringing in of these new professors is in some ways the start of really a broader conversation on like Native rights within the broader context of, frankly, the world, but let alone like New Jersey and the US in a thoughtful way. I think similarly here, similar kind of energy was done to really start the African American Studies department. And in I think a lot of ways here, there's going to have to be a similar energy of like faculty and money that align to what's happening here. And frankly, faculty at Princeton that align what's happening here, right? Because I think you're right. I've seen a ton of these centers around the country, but there's got to be a faculty that like is willing to spearhead it, lead it, stand by it. And I think that's really where the biggest chasm has been. The raising money part can be figured out, right? Like if that, but I think finding the faculty is the hard part. I think if you ever talk with anybody at the university in like the provost's office or in the like president's office, faculty is often the hardest thing, right? Because a lot of them have tenure and you can't really tell a faculty member what to do, right? You're kind of stuck with them in like a good way, right? Like they're brilliant and they do great work, but they're not going to be told what to prioritize and what to study. So finding that right faculty member is going to be kind of the biggest chasm there. So hopefully that gives some context, but I think there's a lot of overlap. Like some of honestly, my favorite ABPA members are also a part of like CBAP. And I think there's a lot of overlap in a really thoughtful way. But I think ABPA is kind of taking the more broad aperture, and they've really focused on the center and really how to drive that forward. So hopefully that helps. Ooh. Any other questions? Okay, Michael, you're on mute. I saw you moving though.
And I'll add, as a member of CBAP, and as a member of ABPA, I would say the ABPA is designed to be more to direct members to CBAP if they feel that their activism is needed in that corner, because a big theme of the listening sessions was around participation and volunteerism, and how vigorous our interaction should be with the university. People want it to be more intentional about how they volunteered their time, and ABPA is able to direct that that sort of intention towards CBAP and establishing a center, or to Princetonians focused on prison reform, or Princetonians focused on what's the word, divestment, or focused on divestment. Our job as a broad alumni organization of Black alumni is to direct those energies, and I would say that's how CBAP and the ABPA interact.
Shout out to our one-day president, Michael. Thank you for putting that in great context. I really appreciate that. And that was a passive move too. I'm excited to continue to engage you, Michael, because I think you see this in the right way, and I think the way you explained it was spot on. So thank you. Cool. Any other questions? I actually prefer this to. I think we've asked a lot of questions during the listening tour, and I'd love to really hear any other questions that might have from membership. And if you feel comfortable saying it out loud now, awesome. And if you feel like you want to email it to us later or think about it more, like we're more than engaged both in this forum and outside of it. Maybe one thing is I don't see anybody, unless somebody's going to say something. If I don't see anything, one question I do have for the broader membership is thinking about like the 50th anniversary for ABPA. And thinking about like what you would want to see or what you might want to hear in that context. Like would love to frankly hear more, right? Like we're trying to use it in some ways as a way to capture some of the history. So like we want to create events that really help to like pull out some of that history in intangible and thoughtful ways.
Eric, you may want to mention Melvin McRae's film.
Yes.
And the fact that we have the right to use that film.
Yep. So we're planning on at reunions and kind of more broadly, really sharing. So Melvin McRae has, I think, a ton of history on just like Blacks at Princeton. So it's actually Blacks at Princeton, I think .com is his website. And he has just a ton of really rich, good history. He has the videos he did before the first couple Black alumni conferences, the videos he did on, I'm blanking on the name right now, but on like Black Prince history, I think probably through like the 35th year of ABPA. And he's doing a couple of other interesting projects going forward. So we'll be kind of showing some of this content and really kind of engaging in conversation there. But any other things that like you all would like to see or think through, or think that like if we don't do this, it would be a massive miss. Like we would love to kind of get any perspective there.
Can I do a quick plug for any event ideas or programming? I think, you know, we have jurisdiction for things outside of like the Thrive type events. So panel type things, or, you know, meetups, local meetups. Is there anything that you know, over the past 50 years enjoyed that you want to see come back? Or any other thoughts on people who we should look in to bring as speakers.
Great idea.
Linda?
Yes, I just, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just want to say, because when the football season is going this fall, the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings is a Princeton grad, and he's a Black Princeton grad. I can't remember his name, but we're trying to get a little event with him this summer. But I just wanted you to know,
Yeah.
because I'm in Minneapolis, so I'm not in New Jersey. So
Cool.
if you guys see the Vikings, you'll know that the general manager is a Princeton grad.
Yeah, Kwesi is his name, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yes.
03. And then the Browns general manager, funny enough, his twin brother was 09 at Princeton. Black guy as well. So
Okay.
we have quite a few Black smart brothers running teams now, which I think is an awesome change from the way it used to be. So
Yes. Okay.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. And Alyssa?
I just wanted to, I put it in the chat, but I really do want to thank those of you on the board and who are officers of the organization, particularly during the time of COVID. I think you did a great job of keeping us connected, and I think that's one of the key purposes of ABPA, and so I've appreciated that, and I know it's not easy. And I also wanted to say that I enjoyed some of the panel discussions. And so you asked, what kinds of things do we like? And I, am also in the Midwest, I'm in Indiana. And so I can't get in for, regular football weekends or other sort of lots of on-campus things, although I will be there next week for reunions. But I think continuing to offer opportunities for virtual engagement are really important, and I really appreciate it. And I know it takes a lot of work to make it happen, but I appreciate that, as well as the communication this year in terms of the listening sessions and even this meeting that we're having in advance of reunions. So thanks for all you do.
No, thank you a ton just for the kind words. It's nice to hear, right? Sometimes it can feel like you're like throwing work into a void, not because people aren't like receptive, but just because like sometimes you don't hear that feedback in these sessions. So just thank you, we really appreciate it. Any other thoughts? Want to be conscious of time on a Saturday, so it's 1:57 East Coast, make it like 12:57 Central, but I have more time after this. Linda, thought?
Another thing, I would like more Black alumni to be on the diversity discussions. We had good diversity discussions with Jenny and Michael and a lot of other people. It's a real good discussion, and it's probably weekly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And what I've also seen work in the past is actually just inviting friends and like people who you've interacted with recently to these events. Because oftentimes people will not come to events, and that's like reunions events all the way through, because they think they'll know nobody there. And like nobody wants to be in a discussion with, a lot of people don't want to be in discussion. I won't say nobody. Some people actually do love being in discussion with new people and random people. A lot of people feel comfortable when they have a support system. So like figuring out a way to even create that for whether it's ABPA events or the Princeton diversity discussions or any other events you go to at the university can help just make it a safer, more inviting space.
Yes, and we meet new people there, so that people that we weren't even in school with, we're meeting them. So it's a very good discussion.
Exactly.
I was just going to lift up also Michael Barney. Thanks so much for being engaged and participating in the chat, having mic issues. So we look forward to hearing from you. Again, the email is princetonabpa@gmail.com. So you have any ideas, feedback on the meeting, responses to any of Eric's questions, definitely hit us up. Thank you so much. We're also super proud of the organization and appreciate all the love. The other thing I'll quickly plug is for those who have been to the old version of the ABPA website and some of the alumni websites, TigerNet has rolled out a new platform. So one of the things just in terms of like back-end operations, we're trying to do to make sure that ABPA as an organization is accessible and visible, and all the stuff that's going on is like in easy places for folks to find, is getting that website up and running and getting all the functionality going. We know a lot of you are getting the ABPA newsletter, and we have worked really hard, and lots of kudos to Eric and his leadership before I even came to the organization, and folks who have run our communications committee to make sure that those newsletters have a regular cadence. But in addition to that, you know, sometimes something gets buried in email, you miss a newsletter. So we're hoping to make sure to get all those events and things like that. The new site has that functionality where we can have like an events calendar. So that way you guys know, I can just like, oh, I think I missed a newsletter. Let me go check out and see what's going on with ABPA. We can get some of that up and running for you. Jenny also in the Princeton ABPA Facebook group uses the events feature there. And we try to use the events feature when we're having virtual or in-person events to also post events in the Facebook group. So Camille dropped the link a little bit earlier to the Facebook group where we link to it in the deck, which we'll share out after. But those are some of the ways you can plug in, because we're mindful that different folks get information in different ways. And so we want to make it as user-friendly as possible. And I just want to double down on Eric's comment. We so appreciate all of y'all for registering and coming. Just tell a friend. When we push the information out after, and part of the reason we hyperlinked a lot of it is just so that it's a one-stop shop, easy place to find. And so if you have classmates that you know have been asking about ABPA, or you're active in the Facebook group, you know, we'll post stuff there, but feel free to just push those emails along and let folks know if they want to get on the listserv so that they get the newsletter, email us. If they have ideas for folks we should be honoring, email us. Pretty much anything you want to get done with ABPA, send it to that Gmail account, and we'll make sure to get it to the right person. But we really appreciate y'all engaging and want to continue to just be able to receive those requests and that input and be able to act on it.
Yeah, no, I want to echo that, Janae. If there's one ask, just forward anything you find interesting, maybe PA onto somebody. None of it's been meant to be secret, and it's all meant to be shared and to really continue to kind of circulate and promote what we and alumni like us are doing in a really thoughtful way. So if there are any more questions, would love to take them. But as people need to leave now, like please feel free to kind of roll off. But just thank you all for taking time on a Saturday to come hang out with us, learn a little more. And Karen Ali, I look forward to some of those cookies here very, very soon. So thank you.
Right. I'm like, Karen, I'm right down the road. Just swing by.
I'm making cookies for 3 graduations from 10 tomorrow. 2 from law school, 1 from undergrad. It's more than an ocean. Yes. I'm done. This is it. This is it.